Fred is a senior lecturer on mental health nursing at UWE, and, well, you can do the rest. Warm welcome for Fred. Thank you so much.
Oh, my feet, that's really loud. So, brain in a bag. My daughter and I, we talk about the day as we do the school run, like, you know, you've got this day in front of you, what do you think? So she said her bit, and she looked at me and said, what do you think, Dad? And I said, I'm nervous. Why is that, Dada? Well, I'm going to talk to about 100 people, and I've no idea who they are. And she said to me, don't worry, Dad, so long as you put your brain in the bag. And so here we have, look, the brain in the bag. So now, the first thing, thanks Denson, by the way, there was, I'd like to have a natter with you in the break, if we could, about the brain and all that kind of stuff. Hannah, can I bother you for a chair? Because I'm going to need to work out. Oh yeah, do you mind holding stuff? Can I ask you to hold my brain? I bet you weren't expecting to hear that request today. Can you hold my brain? Okay, so thanks for inviting me to come and talk. I had a chat with some of the students that I teach and said, you know, look, I've got 10 minutes. What can I say in 10 minutes that could be useful and maybe might make a difference to someone? And they all said the same thing. Do the brain thing, Fred. Do the brain thing. It's wicked. It's like, okay, it is really wicked. And you know, some of the stuff is in the blurb there. What I do, by the way, is all in the blurb. The minutes are ticking away. I'm like, oh, say the right thing in the right order at the right time. So, the thing about the brain that I found was really interesting. So I came across a guy called Louis Cozolino, and he's an American social neuropsychologist. Google this guy, find the book and read it. It's really extraordinary. Now, the thing that stood out for me about what he says in terms of the brain is this, is that we have been studying the brain as we've been studying all of the other organs in the body. So it's just like another organ in the body, right? So you've got your stomach, yeah, you've got your pancreas, you've got your kidneys, you've got your heart, you've got your lungs, you've got your brain. And all you need to do to understand those things is to study them there, but maybe in relation to each other in your body, okay? What Louis Cozolino said was, we've missed a trick. There's only one real way we can fully understand the brain, and that is in relation to other brains, because the brain is a social organ. What the hell is a social organ? Like, what does that even mean? So, I did some more reading, and what I've done is I kind of distilled it down to what I call the bloke in the pubs version. I'm a nurse. I'm not a social neuro something or other. I'm just a nurse. So, what I'm going to do is kind of take you through what that looks like in terms of one of the primal relationships that all of us human beings have from the moment that we're born. Okay, and I'll kind of talk you through that. And it's like a snapshot of what happens between brains over the whole of the lifespan. So, do you know how to take that brain apart, Hannah? It's all right, it won't break, it just naturally comes apart. Yeah, give it a tug. You got it. That's it, thank you. Can you just hold those bits up there? Okay, so what I'm going to talk about to start with, you're going to take that little bit out there. You've got that. Okay, so this thing here. So the first thing to consider around babies, all of us actually, you probably might not have realised this, but we're all born with roughly half a brain. Okay? Now originally the thinking was the brain was pretty much like the arm. So a baby's born with a little arm, and over the lifetime it grows into a big arm. Well, the brain isn't quite like that. The way I like to think about it is it's the equivalent of bits and pieces of an arm, like a bit of finger here and a bit of finger there, and over time it kind of assembles itself. And that's pretty much how the brain functions. So, but interestingly, there's one bit here, which is this. And the bit I want to kind of point you towards, you see this long bit here? Can you see that? And at the top, there's this little almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. Now, the amygdala is responsible for a whole world of pain, but surviving as well. Now, the amygdala is the bit of the brain that governs fear. Okay, that's the bit you kind of really need to get in your head, is like it's all about fear. The interesting thing about this little fella is that the amygdala is fully functional, hardwired, and ready to go at 8 months gestation. All right? So we all knew how to be absolutely bloody terrified before we were even born. That might answer a few questions now straight away. But isn't that really interesting? fear is one of the primal experiences of being a human being, yeah? So when baby pops out, this thing is all really ready to go. What baby doesn't have is any of that. Okay? This is known as the cerebral cortex. What it's got is what I call kind of, bloke in pub speak, dangly bits. That's not proper scientist speak. It's kind of, I can't even remember what the words are, but they dangle around. The point is, they're waiting to make connections with each other, but they don't know how to, and they don't know how those connections work. They're waiting for stuff to happen. So this grows in response to and in relation to what goes on around baby, okay? What baby does know how to do, who's got kids? Yeah, I thought so. Okay, that noise, babies, that noise, not the googly cooing noise, the other one? Yeah, that one there. Okay, baby knows how to do that. Okay, so this is how this works, okay? So baby's out and is experiencing something that it doesn't like. Now, bear in mind, baby has no language, baby has no history, baby's just got a whole bunch of physical sensations and that, okay? So, baby is kind of like, I would say baby's in the whole world of what the hell's going on, but it's not even in that, because it can't even think what the hell's going on, just that, basically. So it feels discomfort, okay, and it activates the amygdala. Okay, and what the amygdala does is shoots out this hormone called cortisol, and it's the stress hormone. So when you're stressed, blame cortisol, basically. But it's there to get your needs met. That bit's really, really important. So cortisol fires out, baby makes that noise. This is the bit that's really magical. So sound comes out of baby's mouth and creates sound waves that travel through the air, looking for the nearest brain. Yeah? Here's one, over here. Now what this brain has got, it's got an amygdala, so it can hear the sound, so the sound travels through, goes in through the ear, hits the eardrum, triggers the nerve, sends a message to the brain. The amygdala goes something along the lines of, Houston, we have a problem. Yeah, so when you hear that sound, have you noticed you can't ignore it? Have you noticed your instinct is not, it's good. Your instinct is not, I'm going to meditate now. Your instinct is do something. Yes? What's going on? If it's yours, then you know. If you're out somewhere in town, you will look around. You automatically look around. Why do you care? It's not even your baby. Isn't it interesting? That sound is looking for a brain and it found yours. Okay? So, but what the other thing this brain does have is all of this. Okay? So remember, baby ain't got one of those. Baby's just got that, and it can't meet its own needs. Basically, this brain needs to borrow that brain to get stuff to happen. That's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, seriously, when I read that, I thought, oh my God, they are totally related to each other, and they have to be, or the whole thing wouldn't work. So, what happens here? That goes in. Okay, so there's the noise there. Now, this bit of the brain here, the prefrontal cortex, okay, it's kind of behind your eyes and up a bit at the back. Okay, now that's the bit of the brain that will regulate this fear center, okay? That's the bit of the brain that kind of has a little think, wonders what's going on, and tells that bit of the brain, fundamentally, I got this. You need to get me to relax because I need to use my brain. I need to get stuff together, okay? So that bit of the brain does that. This carer wanders over here, does whatever needs to be done over here. Now, this is the really amazing bit. So remember, this brain doesn't have any of this. And this brain doesn't know how that works yet. Well, when this brain comes over here and goes, coochie coochie coo, what's the matter with you? Cuddle cuddle, nappies, or feeding, whatever it is, yeah? On that first interaction, the first connection's made. And this brain starts to build a map of relationships based on the map of relationships that's already built in here. Can you see how those two bits of brain work with each other? And that process continues through the whole of a lifetime. It doesn't just stop there. In fact, this might sound a bit creepy, it's happening right now. All of the time. It's happening all the time. Every time you meet someone, every time you're in a social situation. Now, what really fascinated me about this, it really had me think about the kind of biology behind the stuff. We talk about connectedness. Yeah, that kind of therapeutic stuff. Talk to someone when you're in a bit of a state. And the people who are really good to talk to when you're in a bit of a state are the people who don't join you in being a bit of a state. Yeah, yeah, they're useless. Yeah, the people who are really good at it, they can do all of this. Yeah, they can regulate. They will be tempted to be in a bit of a state. I work with kids for 25 years. My God, I know how much of a state I can get into when kids are in a state. But one of the skills that I've had to develop is activating this bit of my brain so that my amygdala will calm down. I can serotonin, by the way. So serotonin is the antidote to cortisol. So you want to be generating some of that kind of happy neurochemistry to break down that cortisol, and away you go. And it also has me think about, Denson was talking about the origins of mental health problems, And I think when I kind of listen to what he was saying, I kind of see the origins of any mental health problem I might have in terms of my relationships around me. When I look back at everything that I found wobbly, it's been about my relationships around me. And everything that's worked for me in moving that forward has been about the relationships around me. Now, this isn't my idea. I'm just reporting back from what Louis Cozzolino says. The great thing about my job is I get paid to find out really cool and interesting stuff and tell people about it. It's really nice, isn't it? So thank you for listening. Time for questions, perhaps? Yeah? Thank you for listening. So any questions, anyone?
I feel like a neuroscientist. Right, passing over. Thank you.
I thought that was brilliant, and I guess it gives us hope then that now we're finding out that we can continue to keep changing our brains throughout our lives. Say you've had some awful things happen or not the sort of early parental connections, but maybe we can sort of learn to develop
Totally spot on. I kind of coined a little phrase. There's a book in this, I reckon. Somebody write it. The biological basis for hope. Hope is not just some Star Warsy kind of empire and all that kind of stuff like, oh my God, are you going to make it? I think there is a biological basis for hope because the brain is made of plastic and we do not stop learning until we stop breathing.
Yeah, so I think it used to be, didn't it, that I'm no expert at all, but that when a child reached a certain age, they'd kind of, all that plasticity stopped, it became, all the connections were like fixed, and now it's like actually the last 10-15 years there's hope for people. Whatever's happened, there's hope to change those pathways.
There's lots of detail around that. So there's lots of detail around how, if you like, neural rewiring, how that has an impact on what's already wired there. So you can't necessarily obliterate something, and actually there's a lot of talk in resilience thinking about how your difficult experiences in your history are potential treasure troves of learning. How did you survive that? How the hell did you manage to get through that? So that experience, but it just becomes differently rewired in the brain. So it stops defining someone as maybe, a victim and someone who's broken to someone who's like actually a really extraordinary survivor with potentially lots to teach other people with that kind of experience. Is there room for another question, perhaps? Any more questions?
Any other questions?
Denson, yeah.
It is said that even a child in the womb can actually suffer emotional damage based on the environment. If there's consistent, ongoing, aggressive, corrosive behaviors, And in terms of the environmental development, if that child continues in that environment and doesn't come into positive contact, then it's very difficult for that child to unlearn those.
It's thanks, Denson. There's been some research over the past 7 or 8 years around, particularly mums who are in really stressful situations, and so their cortisol levels in their body are kind of near at toxic levels, and that can get passed through the placenta into the baby's bloodstream, and it can affect development in all kinds of ways. But it's not as simple as that because of course stress goes up and down. So at key points in the baby's gestation, if there's been a lowering of the stress, potentially that can also lower the risk as well. It's a really complicated kind of matrix, an equation, but you're absolutely right. Ultimately, is enabling people to be in what I call reparative relationships. You know, whether it's a little infant, whether it's a toddler, bless their toes, or it's a middle-y, or it's teenagers, or it's us lot. So long as you're around those kind of relationships that will enable your brain to kind of rebuild itself and kind of rewrite its map, basically. Because remember what I was saying, is the brain builds a map inside there, but of course the map isn't actually the real world. It's just a map of someone's experience of that real world. So we can always influence that by becoming part of that person's map and bringing our map. And if on my map is hopefulness, I'll behave in a certain way that are consistent with hopefulness that will hopefully enable that person to redraw theirs.
Thank you. Anyone else? One more question. We good?
Stun them into silence. What the hell was he talking about?
Massive round of applause.
Thank you for listening.